This trade is absolutely ridiculous. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been linked to a shocking trade that could change their whole offense. My name is Peyton Kleppe, and on today's episode of Steelers Digest, we'll be breaking down the latest Pittsburgh Steelers reports and analysis regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers football team. As the Steelers have struggled to identify their next quarterback, they have been linked to a shocking trade that could upgrade their quarterback and tight end position. Before we get into the latest reports, we are trying to hit that 2,000 subscriber mark. So if you could click that subscribe button down below, only 9% of our current viewers are actually currently subscribed. Let's get into the latest reports. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been linked to a shocking new trade. So Kirk Cousins and Kyle Pitts are the two names that have come up for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the next trade rumors. Kyle Pitts is a guy that the Atlanta Falcons have been looking to move on from, and Kirk Cousins is a guy that, was benched through last season, so they have been looking to move on from him as well. The only thing is, he is also carrying a $20 million or something like that cap hit, or he's getting just a ton of money to really be a backup. So that's the major thing against Kirk Cousins, and the latest reports have been that, Donald Parham, a new tight end that we also did recently bring in. According to Adam Schefter, this guy just went out with a torn Achilles. He got to Jason Tatum, and this dude is out. So, it is sad to see a guy that did have some potential go out so soon. But, it leaves the door open for a guy like Kyle Pitts to come in. The Pittsburgh Steelers obviously did trade away DK Metcalf earlier this offseason for a few picks. This was a pretty controversial trade as George Pickens has been productive, but, his antics off the field, just Steelers have had enough. We've had enough diva wide receivers, so they shipped him out of town. And, it did leave an offensive hole on the roster. So we did bring in DK Metcalf for a second-round pick, but they still need another option on offense. Two guys that have been linked to the Steelers in the past couple of days that they have been talking about is Jonnu Smith, a tight end from the Miami Dolphins, but has also been a tight end from the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, Kyle Pitts as well as Kirk Cousins. Some people are projecting that we may send a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick to the Falcons for these two guys. I don't know if I would want that, but, we do need a quarterback. And obviously, we do need another tight end. So, I could see it happening if the Pittsburgh Steelers do indeed get desperate. If Aaron Rodgers does not show up, the Pittsburgh Steelers could trade for these two guys. If not both, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are more likely to trade for Kyle Pitts. Obviously, Pitts has yet to replicate his rookie season and isn't under contract beyond this season. But, the Falcons probably wouldn't get too much compensation for him. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers could look to trade for, Kyle Pitts or Kirk Cousins for maybe a fourth or fifth round pick. We do have a lot of picks in next year's draft. We're sitting at 12 at the moment. So we could send a fourth or fifth round pick for Kirk Cousins. He is indeed a backup this season. And I could see us just, still maybe rolling with Mason Rudolph, but bringing in Kyle Pitts as another option on the offense. Kyle Pitts, like I said, he was a guy that had a ton of success his rookie season. He obviously had 1,000 yards and a few touchdowns. Not a big touchdown guy his rookie year, but he did have that 1,000-yard season. And coming out of college, this guy was a top 5 pick. The Falcons picked him real early as they didn't think he was going to be an offensive game changer. Coming out of Florida, this dude had a lot of praise. He was looking like a Chase Claypool at tight end in college. Obviously, Chase Claypool did not really translate that success to the NFL. And Kyle Pitts really hasn't done much either since coming in the NFL. But obviously, these guys are two similar players. Kyle Pitts is a big athletic guy, but also a super fast guy. He can stretch the field. He's also like a number 2 receiver that the Pittsburgh Steelers do indeed need. We obviously do have Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin as the next 2 receivers behind DK Metcalf. But there is, a big hole where George Pickens originally was, and Kyle Pitts could be the guy that does fill that roster spot and, could just be another receiving threat that we do throw in at tight end, or maybe even move him out to receiver. He's still an athletic guy, so maybe a little position change for Kyle Pitts here and there, throw him at receiver for a few plays, wouldn't hurt, and would give the Pittsburgh Steelers another athletic option on the outside that they could throw to. We still will probably have Calvin Austin in the middle. Obviously, Pat Freiermuth, our number 1 tight end, and Mount Washington at that number 2, maybe number 3 tight end if we do indeed bring Jonnu Smith or Kyle Pitts. But another thing about Kyle Pitts is he was drafted when Arthur Smith was in Atlanta. I'm not sure I believe he was the head coach at the time, so he is the guy that Arthur Smith does already know. He was a guy that Arthur Smith obviously did want a lot and did bring him in, so bringing another Arthur Smith-friendly guy could help the Pittsburgh Steelers out, as we obviously have been a little controversial with just, the confidence we've had in Mason Rudolph this offseason. He was a guy that coming into this year, if you said Mason Rudolph's going to be the starter going into next season, I probably would not have been too happy, probably would not have believed you. But at this moment, he is our starting quarterback number 1 going into next season, and unless Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins come to town, I think he will be the quarterback number 1 going into week 1 against the Jets at MetLife. But, if we can provide this guy another offensive weapon in Kyle Pitts, it would be helpful. Obviously, we do have a pretty stacked defense. Obviously has added some guys in the draft with Derek Harmon, and, also did upgrade that offensive side of the ball with Caleb Johnson. So, going into next season, I do have some high hopes. I do think the Pittsburgh Steelers will pull out some wins. But, getting some help this offseason is always ideal. Pittsburgh Steelers have been very uncharacteristic this offseason. They made a lot of different moves that they haven't done in the past. Obviously, trading George Pickens, trading for DK Metcalf, not re-signing quarterback and waiting for Aaron Rodgers. I never thought the Pittsburgh Steelers would do this, but they're trying something new. And like they said at the end of last season, sometimes changes have to be made and changes will be done. Going into next season, I think a future bright spot that all our fans should look at, no matter if we do trade for Kirk Cousins, no matter if we do bring in Aaron Rodgers, no matter if we do bring in Kyle Pitts or Jonnu Smith, I think a guy the Pittsburgh Steelers can have faith in is a guy like Will Howard. He's coming off that national championship win. We did select him in the 6th round, and I have a lot of confidence in this guy. I think with some good coaching, with some good learning, I think this guy is going to be a future player in this league. Whether or not he's going to be a future star, we'll have to wait and see. But I have a lot of high hopes for, Will Howard. I really think he's going to be a great player. But we will have to wait and see, depending on if Aaron Rodgers does sign or if we do indeed bring in a guy like Kirk Cousins. Unfortunately, that's all I have for you guys today on Steelers Digest. If you guys are not already currently subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much. Here we go, Steelers.